Hey, somebody's got to find my reading glasses. You did? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer.
Good morning, Guy. We have a crisis here.
Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to move beyond what is true and go all the way to the truth.
It doesn't pay to court disaster, Robin.
With actual listeners in more than 100 countries around the world, I am the Professional Noticer.
Now, for all of you out there who need to know a little bit more about a little bit less, here he is.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. As the Professional Noticer, it's my job to professionally notice things. And nothing's off limits. So if you have questions, or we'll talk about business, spiritual issues, popular culture, we could talk about the virus. I bet you hadn't heard anything about that lately, have you? We even tackle the odd conundrum, like when French people cuss, do they say, pardon my English? Look, my purpose here today and with every show we do is play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life you would live if all your toughest questions were answered. Our sponsor this week is Tucker ATV. Our friends, they're on Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama. Now, you may think, why in the world would a small town place advertise on a program that has listeners in 100 different countries? Well, I gotta tell you, these guys are so good that people are coming from all over to visit with Shannon and Lisa, to get their ATVs from them. Do you know that they have done now business with people from 14 states? And so it's not going to surprise me if somebody like drives from England and just like comes right down Highway 43 and stops there at Tucker ATV and gets a couple of those Ranger crews and then drives right back to England with them on a trailer. Well, maybe that would surprise me. Okay, but my point is that people are coming from all over. Their showroom is just the best, man. They've got an indoor front porch. It's like you can sit down in these great chairs, or you can go in the porch swing. There are books all over, a big television. There's free coffee. That's right, free coffee. And it's just an amazing place. But of course, the reason people they're coming from 14 states to do business at Tucker ATV is because of Shannon and Lisa. The way they are treated, the customer service there, it goes beyond anything that you can imagine as customer service. They become friends very, very quickly. And so you should stop in. I mean, even before you are even in the market for anything, because they got all the Echo tools, the power stuff, they've got the Hustler lawn equipment, and every kind of Polaris ATV you have ever thought of, and they're the very best. So that's Tucker ATV, Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama. This is the small town business with the national reputation. All right. Observations and answers are what we do here. And so this week, don't you feel like the world is searching for answers? And I think we have some of them, but I think we're probably due for more observations today than we are answers. I don't even know what number week this is with the coronavirus, the COVID-19. Do you, Matt? I have no idea. Seems like we've been doing this for quite a while, and it looks like we're going to do it for a little while longer. I am amazed at some of the reactions, and I'm amazed at some of the leadership and some of the areas they get off into. I just read that the governor of a state, an actual governor of a state, And I won't tell you which state. I don't want to embarrass anybody, Georgia. But the governor of the state had been resisting telling people to stay at home. But today, as we were doing this, as we were recording this, he did finally say, yeah, everybody needs to stay home. And the reason he gave for making this order is he said that, well, we just have received new information in the past 24 hours. And of course, I clicked on that because it said, governor issues stay-at-home order due to new information in the last 24 hours. And I thought, I hadn't heard anything in the last 24 hours that's new. Let me see what. And so his new information in the past 24 hours was that this virus can be passed to other people before symptoms appear. That's new information to him. This is the governor of a state, and that is new information to him. I'm this bozo stuck in Orange Beach, Alabama, a beautiful town I don't even deserve, and I'm just this moron. But I knew that it could be passed before symptoms. How long have I known that? For months? For months? Oh my gosh! I'm the first one to tell people don't obsess over the news. But if you're the governor of a daggum state, or if you're the CEO of a company, you need to have a little insight as to what's going on, because you're making life or death decisions for everybody. Yeah, Matt just pointed out. He said, isn't that the case for most illnesses, that you're contagious before you show symptoms? And yeah, that's true. You're contagious right before you start sneezing with a cold or whatever, and that's how, as when I was a little kid, that's how we'd all get chicken pox. Everybody, somebody go to a birthday party and some kid would be just about to break out, and then a week later we're all breaking out. But I really feel like that there are going to be, as bad as this is, I still believe that there will be good things to come from it. And, I just had a friend of mine, a long-time friend of mine, pass away last week with the virus, Joe Diffie. A country singer. I knew Joe back when I was doing the Nashville Network years ago when I was a comedian, and I had not seen him a long time. Last year, I was on an airplane, and this guy tapped me on the shoulder, and I looked up, and before I could even say anything, he said, "Andy, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I'm Joe Diffie." And I'm like, I know who you are, dude. It's like, how am I going to forget you? And we talked and laughed, but on a Friday, he announced that he had tested positive, and on Sunday, Joe passed away. So it was very tough, very quick. Sandy Patty has tested positive for the virus, so we're praying for Sandy. And as you guys know, except apparently the governor of Georgia, as you guys know, this is very serious. This is going to affect a lot of people. It's already affected a lot of people, whether you have tested positive or have not been tested, like most of the people in Alabama. I'm not hearing a lot about testing. But I also know that we have been through disasters before. We've been through crisis before. And while you may say, well, not like this, that's true. But, every time a disaster comes up, I think back, I remember, and disasters can be local or they can be national or it can be worldwide. But if the disaster is in your neighborhood, it doesn't really matter whether it's worldwide or not. It's in your neighborhood, right? And so Polly and I and the boys have been through some other stuff around here before. And I think specifically about Hurricane Ivan, when that came, I mean, that was just it was a disaster. And of course, people were saying, it'll take years for this to be fixed. And of course, it did take a few. It did take a few. And it was a while before we were not seeing, trees that had been killed by the hurricane. We were not back in our house for 2 years. Did you know that, Matt? That we were back. When Hurricane Ivan hit, the boys were very small. And I don't know exactly what age they were, but I can distinctly remember Austin carrying around, with a cowboy hat and cap guns. And I remember Polly drawing, doing like they did on Gunsmoke, where you like draw your guns. And, but I remember him wearing cap pistols during that time, so very little. But man, we were out of our house for 2 years, and believe it or not, we were among the very first around here to get back into our house, because I was one of the only ones around here who my work was not out of town. I mean, my work was not here. Most of the people lost homes and their businesses, right? And so I was still able to go away and work. And so it took a while still. Polly still says that dealing with the insurance company was worse than the hurricane. And I totally get that, because it was. And the reason we were able to get back in our house quicker is because we weren't totally relying on the insurance money to come in to fix the house. And we had neighbors who bulldozed their houses and just started over, and we should have. But you kind of look and you go, I think that's fine, isn't it? And then a couple of weeks later, it's like, is that ceiling falling down? It's just like, I guess we got to take the ceiling out. But gosh, the wiring looks good. All the air conditioning ducts still look fine. Then you think, the floor is fine. We drive the floor off and it's fine. Then are those floorboards buckling? Yeah, okay, got to rip that out. And then, this went on for months until finally we had stripped it down to the studs and the foundation. And so, we didn't bulldoze. We just spent $150,000 more to take it apart a piece at a time. It was crazy, and there's no answers. And then we had the oil spill. Now the oil spill, boy, you talk about widespread panic. That was the case along the Gulf Coast at that time when that oil spill happened. There were people who just left. They literally just walked away from their businesses and moved to Nashville or Birmingham or Montgomery or Dallas or wherever they moved. But they just left because the word was, it's going to take generations for this to ever be normal again. It's going to take generations. And I've got, we went up in a helicopter and looked along the coast, and it was horrible. And I saw it the other day. I've got a picture of Austin and Adam standing beside the water and looking back at me as I took a picture with this bad look on their face. And the water in front of them was this red, black, it was just oil. And it was horrible. And so, when you hear everybody saying, man, it's going to be generations before it's cleaned up, it's hard not to listen to that bad news, because that bad news seems to catch our attention. And it's hard not to listen. And people made decisions, irrevocable decisions, during that time that to this day kind of haunt me and give me some perspective about what we're going through here. You know, when I say irrevocable decisions that still haunt me, when, you know, in Orange Beach and Gulf Shores, it's a big charter boat industry. You know, there's a lot of fishing trips, and there's people make their living taking people fishing, and so back then, charter boats were the main thing, and a lot of these boat captains, you know, they paid a note on their boat just like you and I would pay a lease on our business building or a payment for our building, and of course, when the oil spill happened, there wasn't any fishing, and so the boys went to school with a couple of kids whose dad knew, you know, he couldn't make the note on the boat, and they were going to repossess the boat, and of course he couldn't make the note on his house because he couldn't fish, and he went down to his boat and shot himself and killed himself, and that was just horrible. I mean, that still haunts me, and I got to say, if things stayed the same, if this place was still covered in oil and if it had changed things forever, I would still feel bad about the people who closed their businesses or just literally walked away from them and let the bank take them. And, you know, same way with houses down here and apartments. If things had stayed the same, if today we were still dealing with that cleanup, I would still feel horrible about the guy killing himself. But I got to say, I feel worse about it because things are fine. And I feel worse about that decision that he made because there were other charter boat captains in the same situation that made different decisions, that figured out different things. You know, that was the time. There were several charter boat guys who basically, you know, they thought and they said, okay, we got a boat, we got, you know, what are we going to do? And long story short, several of them decided during that time that they would start, since now people were coming down to look, to take pictures of the oil. You know, I mean, people, I don't know why that was a great vacation to those people or if it was, but, you know, we got crowded again pretty quickly with people just gawking. And so these guys several of them figured out they were going to do environmental tours. And to their shock, I suppose, I mean, because it was kind of, they considered it just a last-ditch effort type of thing. But to their shock, they were booked up with people, you know, paying them $30 a ticket for a 2-hour ride, and they would pile people on their boat and come back, and there'd be more people ready to go again. And basically the environmental tour was to drive away from the dock a little bit and go, if you'll look to your left, you'll see some oil. And right over here on your right, if you look at your right, you'll see oil. And right down here, we're going to be approaching, if you look ahead of us, you'll see we're approaching oil. And I mean, that's pretty much what it was. And then back to the dock. And so, but these guys had an idea that just saved. Now, it was amazing that they were making less gross, but their net was much better because they didn't have to go way offshore and use the fuel that that it was taking to get way offshore, and the aggravation of bad weather, that he couldn't do anything in bad weather. You know, if the waves got too high, you just can't take people out, and they realized, my gosh, we're keeping more money than we kept when we were fishing. And so that they figured out a way. Now think about this. This is kind of an odd thought, that at first they're devastated because there's oil and they can't fish. That was the first thing that happened. Then they have an idea and they realize, oh my gosh, we're making more money now than we made when we were fishing because of all this oil laying around everywhere. Now, can you imagine? The oil gets cleaned up and we're like, oh, what do we do now? No more environmental tours. Oh my gosh, what can we do? And do you know, that was the beginning of the Dolphin Cruises. I mean, now around here, there's tons of people that give dolphin cruises. You know, they take you for 2 or 3 hours and see dolphins. And one of my longtime friends, he had just what I thought was a novel approach. He would do dolphin cruises, and he had a bigger boat, and so he would contract with some of these restaurants, and if you wanted to book a dinner cruise for dolphins or a lunch cruise or whatever, you know, they would cater it, and so you would charge more. And his approach though was, if you do not see dolphins, it will give you your money back. A guarantee for dolphins. How about that? I mean, that seems pretty amazing. And in all the years that he did that, he never had to give anybody their money back. You know what he did? The reason he always saw dolphins, there's always dolphins inshore, okay? They're always inshore, but, back in the coves and back around the thing. But Chris would send his son out. He said, okay, we're leaving at 9. You know, we're pulling away from the dock with a bunch of people at 9. And so his son, like 12-year-old son, would go in a skiff and leave the dock at 8 o'clock. And he would have a walkie-talkie. And, 30 minutes later, he'd say, hey, Dad, I got them. They're over here off Bear Point. And so Chris would just drive the boat straight to where, and the kid just got him in. And they always found dolphins. I mean, if you have time, you can find them. But the kid could go faster in that little skiff with that outboard on it than Chris could in the big boat. And so he'd find them for his dad. And so just, it's amazing. But they figured a way. Now, I had kind of an amazing conversation yesterday with 9 people, 9 friends, and we kind of got together on one. What was that? Was that a Zoom call? Okay. Matt's going, yeah, Mr. Technology over there. Yeah, so it was a Zoom call. And so I could see him on the screen, and it looked like the Brady Bunch to me. And we talked, and we're just kind of catching up with each other and finding out, what is everybody doing? How is everybody handling this? And I got off the call just almost shocked, because I was like, these guys are just superstars, man. They have figured out ways to do things now that weren't even really viable before, but they're doing great. And so I'm already hearing tons of stories from people who, you would think it was the worst thing in the world. Let me tell you, here, I'll tell you one. Sugarcane Jane. The guys who play Anthony and Savannah. Sugarcane Jane does the theme song, the Noticer theme for this show. That music you hear, that's Anthony and Savannah. That's Sugarcane Jane. And so they've been traveling for years, doing concerts, and I traveled with Dwight Yoakam last, I think, and Anthony was on the road with Neil Young for years, but Sugarcane Jane travels, and so obviously, all of a sudden, you can't travel. They're closing all the places that they played, and so they started on Facebook every night at 9:30 Central Time on Facebook. Sugarcane Jane are live from their house. They've got this awesome place in the middle of the woods and their own studio out there in the middle of the woods. And so Anthony and Savannah go into the studio and kick on the technological buttons, and at 9:30, you and I can get on Facebook and watch them do a live show. And they're not charging for it. I mean, it's not like you have to pay $20 to go listen to it. Now, they have a virtual tip jar there, and it's something that we can, help with. But I want to tell you, you really ought to see them. I mean, if you're only listening to their music once a week on this show, you just should hear these people. And of course, you can communicate with them on that Facebook thing. There is the song. Well, I can think of a million songs that they have. Anthony is a songwriter who he has had his songs recorded by Dolly Parton and Steve Winwood and Neil Young and Dwight Yoakam, and just tons of people. And so he's writing, and there's one you ought to, if you're on there tonight, make sure that you request My Pedigree. My Pedigree. That's one of the funniest songs. And then one of the coolest sounding songs is called After the Mardi Gras. That one just gives me chills. And there's so many, I guess, songs that you would want to request. One that they do, and I love to hear her sing this because I love her voice, but Anthony is just like this prodigy on the guitar. But they do Ode to Billy Joe, and you know that one, right? What? Matt, you can't be that young. You don't know Ode to Billy Joe?
I don't think so.
3rd of June? It was the 3rd of June, another sleeping in a Delta day. That thing, I love there's a part in there is something like, Billy Joe never had a lick of sense. Pass the biscuits, please. But Polly loves that song. And she and her buddies from Mississippi, every year on June 3rd, they'll wake up on that day and text each other, go, was the 3rd of June another sleepy, dusty Delta day? That is amazing. But they tear it up. But seriously, you've never heard that song? Come on. Here, I've got this on my phone because I was at a concert. It's just kind of loud. It's not good sound. But here's Anthony and Savannah doing. Tell me you hadn't heard a little of this. Listen. You heard that, hadn't you? Well, listen to this now. You guys, at 9:30 tonight, I'll meet you on Facebook on Sugarcane Jane's site. And we ought to just wear them out. and just request songs like After the Mardi Gras, Ode to Billy Joe, My Pedigree. There's tons of them. But anyway, these guys have started doing this, and their lives are better. They're getting to stay at home. They're home with their kids. They're not worn out all the time. They're not having to pay a babysitter $150. It's just an awesome thing. But that there is some form of getting through this time available to all of us. There is something that we can do, that we can look and choose a perspective about this that will not only carry us through, but that will propel us on. There is an end to this. That's one thing that having gone through some crises before, it lets me know. If you've ever built a house or had one repaired like we have, it always takes longer than they say. Whatever date they tell you, you can just be sure it's going to take longer than that. Well, what I have found about disasters is that it's never as bad as they say. And we've talked about this before. We just have to be aware. And I'm not saying don't get the news, okay? But I am telling you, if you're smart during this time, you go get what information you need to get and then get out. Don't sit there and obsess over this. I mean, every 20 minutes they're saying the same thing over and over again anyway. And so don't obsess over this. You have an amazing opportunity to be home. Let's be smart about it. Let's keep our hands washed. Let's keep our hands off our face. Let's keep our hands off each other. Let's be smart about this and give the researchers time to find the answers that we need. A real sign of maturity in somebody's life is their ability to live in ambiguity, to live with confusion around them. It's a sign of maturity to be able to function without the answer, okay? And there's something curious to me about living that way, and that is that every time, there are always people who quit or panic or leave town or whatever when there's something going on, and yet history tells us that problems are solved, and problems are never solved by panicked people. They're solved by people who dig in, make themselves comfortable with confusion until there is no confusion. Confusion is just not knowing the answer. You don't know the answer. You have to go on. You have to continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to search. But we all need to remember that every time an answer is found, just a couple of seconds before, there was no answer. And so we don't know when the answer is coming, but the answer is coming. And we're much more equipped to find an answer than we've ever been before. We got to be patient. And we need to understand that this confusion is not a warning. It's kind of an opportunity card. If the old man were here, if Jones were here, he would tell me that right now, perspective is the key. See, most people run from confusion, but it's confusion that guards the treasure you seek. It's just like you said just a second ago, immediately before you know the answer, you don't know the answer. Right before you find the answer, right before, you didn't have any answer. So the closer you get to an answer, farther down the road that goes, it does, I understand that it does seem even more confusing, more aggravating, but that's when people bail out. When people allow that confusion, that lack of answers to intimidate them, and they just won't hang in there. And then they unwittingly step farther and farther away from the answer they said they wanted. So don't be, we have to be smart about the virus, but don't be nervous about the confusion. Don't be discouraged by it. As long as you keep swimming upstream, you'll be on the right, the right path. There's so many examples that we're able to find that in history that things it looked like the worst and turned out to be the best. I mean, how many times in your life have you fought against something happening? You fought against some change, some drastic thing. It looks like, you fought against losing this job or whatever it was. And then it happened, man. Then no matter how much you did not want it to happen, no matter how much you fought against it, it happened. And, you have that thought, man, this is the worst thing that could ever happen in my life. Well, how many times have you had that kind of thing occur, and then a year later you're sitting in a better place and you go, man, remember just like a year ago and we were horrified that happened, but look at where we are now. And if that had not occurred, we would never be here, because we would have never done this without being pushed out. It's like an eagle. Would they ever fly if their mom didn't push them out of the nest? That's got to seem like the most cruel thing in the world. You're up on a cliff and your mother pushes you out of the nest. Thanks a lot. But an eagle is born to fly. An eagle is born to soar above the cliffs, not to sit in a nest on one. And so whatever is dealt out, we will deal with and become better for it. It's a crazy time, a confusing time. But it's a quiet time too. The seismologists are saying that they're able to get more from their the things they have planted. They're hearing sounds from the earth that they've never heard before, because there is so much less activity with cars and this ambient noise. They're able to hear so much more, and they're going to learn so much more. And they're saying, we're not saying we're happy about it, but this is amazing. We've never heard some of this, and so it's going to put them light years ahead of where they would have been. You're not lacking money. You're not lacking time. You're not lacking leadership. You're only lacking an idea. What are you going to do? How are you going to figure in this? Where can you create value for other people? That's what we want to do together. Hey, we'd love for you to go and check out Wisdom Harbor. We've opened up several of those docks that anybody can get into for free. That you can go and watch some stuff, listen to some stuff, read some stuff. And this is wisdomharbor.com. Wisdom, HARBOUR.com. And, a week ago, we released The Kid Who Changed the World. And with the video and audio and the curriculum. And now we've just released the Young Traveler's Gift. And we were amazed. None of us remembered that there was not an audio of that book. And so we've got an audio, and you can get it for free. It's about 4 hours. So it's the Young Traveler's Gift, perfect for teenagers, really perfect for anybody. But the Young Traveler's Gift is on Wisdom Harbor. It's posted on Wisdom Harbor, and you can get it for free right now. And there's also the curriculum for that. And so there are a lot of teachers that teach that, use that book. And so you guys, it's right there. You can download the curriculum for free. And so spread the news about that. Okay? All right. Hey, let me end today with the 4 lines of a song. I just think this song is so great. The Isaacs do it. You go and look up the Isaacs on YouTube, and I think the name of it is I know who holds my hand or something. I can't remember exactly, but here I do remember the 4 lines of the chorus, and I just love this. It is many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds the future, and I know who holds my hand. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing what mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk. Don't breathe anybody else's air, but make sure you have a positive answer to the question, how's it going? And so, until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme, written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Paper, macaroni, and glue, provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration, provided by April's Bouquet Delivery. At April's Bouquet Delivery, we're delivering the finest flowers and plants right to your door. Give them as gifts or order a bouquet for yourself. Our CEO, Mrs. April Showers, is committed to providing the highest quality product and service, even under these most unusual circumstances. Listen to this review from a recent customer. Patricia from Pensacola says, "Wow, I can't believe that April's Bouquet Delivery is still delivering during a pandemic. Every year, I send my high school English teacher, Mrs. May, a bouquet of roses on her birthday, but due to staff not being available in their warehouse, April took it upon herself to put on her hazmat suit and drive to hand deliver the roses to Mrs. May. I was overjoyed upon hearing the news that my gift was able to arrive on time." There you go. It's true. April Showers brings May flowers. So there you have it. That's April's Bouquet Delivery. Look them up and place your order today.